ready?
I'm ready.
Toastmaster Dickie Bell is a native Texan who grew up around the world courtesy of the U.S. Air Force. He graduated from McMurray University with a Bachelor in Science in Computer Science and a minor in Mathematics. He is currently the Chief Technology Officer for Spokodot Telecom. Previously, he was Technical Program Product Manager for a buyer fraud service at Amazon.com. In that role, he was responsible for systems used to detect and prevent fraud and identity compromise. In today's presentation, he will be returning to that role to deliver information about a major data breach that impacts customers. Following the presentation, he will take questions from the audience. You should find a series of questions on a chair close to you. Please look over these and feel free to play the role of the media during the press conference. You can also ask any other questions you might have. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Dickie Bell.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you being here with us this morning. Unfortunately, this is not going to be a fun conversation because I have to give you some bad news. As a representative of Amazon.com, I have to let you know there has been a major data breach impacting our systems, and customers have been impacted by this breach. This breach occurred at about 1 a.m. this morning. The detection was from our network intrusion detection systems that detected we did have persons who were acting in nefarious ways within our systems. Within about 15 minutes, we were made aware of the problem. We were able to terminate the breach and remove the people from our system so they no longer have access. That was our first priority, was to mitigate the situation as quickly as possible to prevent any further damage from being done. Our next step was to analyze and assess what damage had been done. As best as we can tell, we have our credit cards isolated and locked into one part of our systems, which are very securely maintained. That system was compromised. So that means we have potentially customer information that was leaked out, including personal identifiable information, names, telephone numbers, email addresses, and credit cards, including expiration dates and CVV numbers, which these could be used. There is a bit of good news in this. From the information we have at this point in time, about 90% of the cards that were stolen were expired cards. These were not active cards in our system. They were not completely into the depths of our system. They were in the front line, so they did not get as many as we had potentially thought possible. Unfortunately, 90% of 10 million customers is a large number. We have about 1 million customers who are infected by this. If you're one of those people who was affected by this particular situation, you will be receiving information from us. You will receive an email that will ask you to please log on to your account. You will notice that there is not a link on that email. We ask you to please go to Amazon.com in your browser, and that once you get there and log in, you will be notified of what information or what steps you need to take to further protect yourself. For the customers who are impacted, we will be providing 1 year of identity protection so that you can make sure your information, your credit cards are not compromised any further. Those that have been impacted, we've contacted your credit card providers, and they should be working with you to reverse any charges that have been made. At this point in time, we do not know any information on that. As I said, this happened about 1 a.m. this morning, so we will not have any information on that across the next few days. The steps that we've taken to prevent this, we've identified where the breach happened. We have what's called a front-end firewall, which is our outer layer of protection over all of our systems. One of those systems was compromised. It was not kept up to date with recent security changes that were put out. That's the cause of this problem. We have ensured that that particular system has been removed from service and has been upgraded. Our next steps will be to review the rest of our fleet to make sure that does not happen. Amazon is about 500,000 machines, so this is going to take us a little bit of time, but we've already got a good start on this. For us, this is something that we take very seriously because our reputation as a company is based on our, number one, detecting and preventing these types of problems, and number two, how we respond to that. Our customers are our utmost priority in dealing with this situation. That's why you've taken the steps to mitigate, prevent any further loss, and taken steps to protect those of you who may have been impacted by this situation. At this point in time, I would ask, are there any questions that you have regarding this particular situation?
I have a question. Do you know who did it?
At this point in time, the information we have received, it looks like this came from persons acting out of Eastern Europe. As you know, Eastern Europe is somewhat of a hotbed for criminal activity and electronic or digital security violations. From our information we received, that's where it has been from. The trail that we followed does not identify us directly to the people. We know to the country that this came from. It was the Ukraine is where this came from. And we'll be working with officials in those countries to try to determine exactly who it was and effect the necessary arrests as we can. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
Do you expect any civil cases to be filed against the company?
We do. Unfortunately, there will be some of that. We will work with the people on a case-by-case basis and what's justified. Obviously, there's going to be people who will try to take advantage of this. We will require that there is some substantiated evidence of their damages and what the extent of their damages are and try to reduce those or deal with those as quickly as possible. Yes, sir.
Do you think Russia is involved, and if so, how involved are they?
At this point in time, we do not think this is a state-level operation. Most of the organizations that have been operating out of those countries have not been state organizations, but we will do due diligence to make sure that it is not something like that. As you know, some of the people who use this information are military members who could be in these systems as well, so we do want to try to protect you guys from that as well. Any question? Yes, sir.
What have you done to prevent this from happening again?
As I stated, we've identified the compromised systems. We've removed those from service so that those are no longer a factor in this. We will be conducting an additional review. Part of our ongoing process, we conduct a monthly review of our systems to make sure that everything is in place, that we don't have any issues with security. We do have some very talented people doing that, but this, unfortunately, in this case, this particular system was missed. We will be reviewing those people to make sure that that review process is activated and possibly stepping it up to a bi-monthly or twice a month rather than just once a month. Yes, sir.
How do you believe this will affect Amazon's image as a whole?
That's probably the most catastrophic impact for us because Amazon, we've been free from many of those particular situations. This is one that does impact us. We're going to have to do everything we can. Primarily is communication with you as our customer. So that you know what's going on, so that we're as transparent with what we're doing and also as responsive as possible. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
How could you let this happen? It's our image on the line.
Well, that's a very good question. In this particular world, as you know, there are people who act in nefarious ways in the digital world. It's something that we don't enjoy, but we can't do anything about. We have to protect as well as possible. Given the number of years that we've been in operation and the low number of incidents that we've had, we feel we've done a good job, but in this time we have to say that we have failed. Unfortunately, that has happened. We can't change that. All we can do is respond to it as can anybody else in the industry, and hopefully reduce the impacts as much as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Is there some kind of marketing plan to anticipate the drop in sales that you may have as a result of this?
At this point in time, we always have those kind of ideas in mind. We have not impacted or not implemented anything directly for that yet. We're still recovering from the initial situation. So we're putting our protection right now, making sure our customers are protected before we worry about what we do for ourselves in the future. But we will try to message out what has happened here as effectively as possible. Any other questions? Again, I thank you for taking the time to be here today. This is one of those things that we hate to have to do. Unfortunately, it is a part of this industry and part of the business. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact our public relations folks at our offices in Seattle, and they'll be glad to respond as quickly as possible. Thank you. Have a good day.